Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I'm looking at Theta, and also today is the weekly candle close. So we have about 3 hours and 40 minutes of the time of recording this video, and we will get a weekly candle breakout. Look at this. This is Theta versus Ethereum. So we looked at Theta versus Bitcoin. We looked at Theta versus USD. And this is Theta versus Ethereum. Look at this. I'm going to zoom out and look what we have here. Basically, in my perspective, we have a run up, right? And we have a run back down. But the cool part is we are creating a double bottom. But even cooler than that, we have a low and a higher low. Even cooler than that, we have 5 waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And even cooler than that, we are starting to create a base down here. And even cooler than that, we are breaking above said base. So I'll draw a little rectangle there, and you can see a beautiful weekly engulfing breakout from this range. Now, of course, the work is only just begun. We got a little ways to go here. I mean, we're not even near the 50% of the breakdown. We're just at the beginning, which is good because that gives us more percentage potential. So if I put a Fibonacci retracement right about there, I mean, you could see we're nowhere even near the 382. So we still have, I mean, we're at the bottom of the barrel, right? Which is good because that gives us more room to go. So I guess I would say the main goal for the weekly candle close is to break above this high, which we already did, and to close above this weekly high right here. And then that would be the highest weekly close since last year. So a whole year, right? So that's a long time. So that's good. And then after that, you say, okay, let's say we get the close, we get the breakout, right? What then next? Well, then the next order of business would be to start breaking above this, which is, we're currently right at 0.006899. And we would like to close above 0.007538. So we'll see how the week progresses this coming week. But really, I'll put some resistance points. So one there. I'll put another one here at 0.001, and then another one here at 0.0013. So we got some work to do, but the point of this chart is it's looking reversalish, right? As of now, we only have, I mean, you can look at this from an Elliott perspective. You can say that this is 3 wave-ish right here, right? Which would mean we got more of a correction later. Or you can say this could be a diag, and I think the diag is better, which is a 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're in 5, right? So if you don't know what a diagonal is, just go to Google, type in Elliott wave diagonal. Essentially, it's a wave that is overlapping the previous wave. So you can see wave 4 overlapping with wave 1, right? So, you know, it's sort of like this, maybe like a broadening wedge, right? And then once you get that 5th wave, typically you get a ABC correction or some type of back test, right? And then a continuation. So we'll see how that goes. So for Theta versus Ethereum, it's looking pretty good, right? I mean, let me take everything off the screen and I'll make it simple. And I'll go to the 2-week chart, and basically what we have here is, well, first of all, a lot of people use alt pairs like Litecoin versus Ethereum, or whatever chart versus Bitcoin or versus Ethereum as an oscillator, right? So usually, like if you look at the gold to silver ratio, it's not really a trending market, it's more used as an oscillator, right? So when you look at altcoins versus Ethereum or altcoins versus Bitcoin, um, a healthy way to look at it as an oscillator. What is an oscillator? Basically, if I turn the RSI up here, and let me go to the 4-hour chart. So basically, this is an oscillator, right? So you have price get to the top of the range, to the bottom of the range, to the top, to the bottom, to the top, to the bottom, right? It continues to oscillate back and forth, staying pretty much in a horizontal range, right? So understanding that, looking at the price of Theta versus Ethereum as an oscillator, right? You can say, well, back over here in 2019, we were at the bottom of the range, right? Then we continued up, and now we're at the top of the range. So basically, green is your buying, right? And red is your selling. If this is going to be an oscillating type of chart. Now, we don't know that yet because we only have one hit to the high, but it can do something like this. Boom, down here, right? As you know, this is a buy. We come back up to the top, then it's a sell, right? Come back down, right? It usually, that's sometimes how it goes. Now, I'm not saying that this has to happen, but because I think at some point Theta is gonna start to vastly outpace Ethereum and eventually break out, right? You can look at it from an oscillation, or you can look at it as a massive 1, 2, and now we're about to get 3 and break out, and 4 and 5, right? Something like that. So here's an interesting example. Here's Matic versus Bitcoin, and it did a little something similar here. You can see right here at the bottom where it started off, and then it came to the top. So let me first put this range here. And it ended up not being a range because it ended up breaking out. But you can see how that occurred, which is a move from the buying rectangle up to the top to the selling rectangle, which is green and red, obviously, right? And we come back down, but look at this. We made a higher low. So we have a low, we made a slightly higher low, right? Same kind of thing like Theta versus ETH. You can see where the price came down, we made a slightly higher low, right? So going back, and what did it do? It really sliced right through, right? And now look at it. Now it's sort of in a new range, right? So if I draw this here, it's sort of in this new range that has been respecting it pretty nicely. And usually when they first start out, like Matic did back down in here, that first sort of area where they start to oscillate is usually sort of the base, right? And then you break out, and then once you get that breakout, then you sort of create this new base, right? You can see here Matic versus Bitcoin. You sell Matic, right? Swap, and then when we get down here you swap it, swap your Bitcoin for Matic, right? And then you sell, then you buy, then you sell, then you buy, right? So you can see it's a good example of oscillation where we're going down to the range, to the top, to the bottom, to the top, right? But you can see here this first range, sort of like Theta versus Ethereum, right? It's in its first range, kind of like, you know, what Matic did. I can totally see it doing something similar where we came back to the top, to the bottom, and then break out in a big way, and then sort of start that oscillation period, right? So you know, it really depends. Like I said, like usually when they first start out in their pair, whatever pair it is, you know, like Solana or Matic, usually that first range is a big breakout because the coin is, you know, brand new, and if it's a really good utility driven coin, people accumulate and it vastly outpaces Bitcoin or Ethereum. But then it gets to a point where it finds a new range, like up in here, right? And it starts to range, and that's where you get your oscillation. So you can get it down in here, or you can break out and get it up in here. And that's usually how I look at the alt versus BTC pair or alt versus Ethereum pair. You can see it happened right here. We came up instead of oscillating down, right? What did Matic versus Bitcoin do? Well, down here Matic was a baby, right? So it, you know, it vastly outpaced. But then it gets to a point, right, where you start to oscillate. So that's my 2 cents. I know someone asked for Theta versus Ethereum, and that's how I see Theta versus Ethereum. So real quick, just to summarize, and we'll get to the price of Theta in a moment, but either this is a 1, 2, 3, right, and we're about to go into a new range, or either way, I still think we're going to get back at least to the middle, right? So if you look at this like a channel, and I put this right here, and then I'll bring it all the way down to where its low is down here, we can get, you know, at least to the middle part of this, right? That would be my first target would be getting to this mean between 0.0014219 and between 0.0195. So right around in here would be the first target, and then eventually obviously getting back to the top and then seeing how it reacts up here. You know, like with Matic, it just sliced right through. So if we go into a big alt season, that could happen. I could totally see that happening, right? Okay, so now let's get into what we've been waiting for, which is Theta versus USD. If you've been sleeping under a rock, you probably haven't noticed. We have reached all the way up to $2.54. That is another big milestone, right? I mean, look at this. We were ranging from $1.80 up to $1.95 for about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, right? So almost a week. We were ranging between one, you know, even lower than that, 176 at the bottom, and then at the top end was about 217, all the way up to 230. And now we broke out of this little range right here, right, with this this candle here, and this candle here, and this candle here, which is what they call that the 3 white soldiers. So that's a nice looking daily chart right there. So when I zoom out, and this is a good thing because we are pumping on Sunday. I couldn't ask for anything better, because what that does is that gives us the weekly close. We want the biggest weekly close we can get, right? So when the week started out last week, right here, look how small that candle is compared to this one, and we were talking about how big it was. we wanted this candle to close above this high, and we got it, and we called that a breakout. Then the following week, I said, okay, the next goal is to break above this high. That would be the next goal, and we smashed that goal like nothing. So look at this. I mean, we still got 3 hours and 20 minutes, so don't want to call it too early, but it's looking like it's going to have a beautiful close above that high. So that's all that was basically what I've been talking about all week, was for this candle to close above this high, and it looks like we're going to get it, right? I mean, you know, in this candle here, this breakout candle of this range, let me turn on the bull market support band, there we go, basically was saying this can either turn into a big impulsive move, or we can have some type of three-wave correction, then a big impulsive move. But since the bull market support band was holding, and it was testing and holding for many weeks, right? What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, basically a month of testing that bull market support band. It was getting more likely that we get something like this. So yeah, I mean, we got up to, we're almost about $2.40. So we're looking really, really good. So we'll see how the week start off. Now, when I zoom out, just look at this. This is what we've been wanting. This is what we've been waiting for. And this is what we've been talking about, right? You could see if I put this down here, right? This was another range at the beginning of Theta's life, right? Let me change that back. You can see when we broke out of this range from the beginning, we never came back to back test the top of the range, not even the bull market support band. So Theta is known for doing things like that. So the big question is, what next? Well, the conservative would be to say that this, you know, we've obviously run into resistance right here. So if I just put this, you can see this candle, this candle, this candle, right? This is our range, or basically our cluster right in here, right? So basically this area right in here, right? So we've ran into the bottom of this area, and this area between $2.30 to $2 or $4 and say 20 cents is the first area before the big breakdown. So this is across many different charts. Usually, right, you get your, you know, your run up, your pullback, you sort of consolidate, right? Then you have your first big breakdown, right? And then it usually hangs out right below the breakdown. You can see this was a descending triangle. We broke below the descending triangle. We came up to retest or back test the descending triangle, right? We tried it once, we tried it twice, we couldn't get above, and then we sliced right through like butter, right? So the idea here is to say, well, from the bottom of this to the top of this is basically a straight down move, right? Just like back over here and over here was pretty much a straight move up and a straight move down. And lo and behold, that's exactly what we got going back, right? So you can see when we started out right here, we sliced right through it like butter, just like how we sliced right through it down like butter, and the same going back up. So I'm going to take everything off the screen, and I'm going to put a range right from here to here, right? And really you have this point here, but really it's from here to here. So What does that mean? Well, that means there's not really much volume profile in this area, except a little bit right here. But you can see we sort of slice through, slice down, and now we slice back up. So that's what I like to call like a gray area, where there's not much trading in that price range. So when you enter that price range, you sort of slice right through it. And that's exactly what we did. So then the big question becomes, can we get above it? Can we get above this area, right? And if we can, then this becomes our new support. We can break out and then back test, right? It would be a big 1, 2, and then another 1, 2, right? But that's looking at it more bullishly. Conservatively, we would come back down to about 170, around there, and retest the breakout. So we broke out of this here between this inverse head and shoulders at about $1.30, and then we also broke above $1.66, $1.70, and we have a big engulfing candle that is far away from the breakout area. So like I said, what next? What can we expect? Well, basically it comes down to two things. Either one, we're going to back test $1.70, which would be a pretty big drop from where we are here. Or number two, we're going to, at least consolidate above here, right? Or number three, continue impulsing to the upside. Now, which one do I think? I think we're going to consolidate to the very least. We could continue breaking out, right? But if that happens, hey, I'll take it. But usually, look at this. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 weekly candles in the row, all of them bigger than the following. So either you can see what the pattern is, right? So either we're going to get a big engulfing candle that's even bigger than this one, or we're going to get a red candle like a doji and start consolidating. Either way, it's very bullish. Why? Because we got the breakout. That's what we wanted, right? I mean, you got to give Theta some slack here, because if you go back to May of 2022, we've been in this range since May of 2022. So there's our range, right? Just like how this was our range. And remember, this range did not need a back test, right? So maybe this one doesn't either. But if it does back test, it would be a really good entry point, right? It would be a good, a good place to dollar cost average, not financial advice. I mean, I could be wrong. So we'll see how this week goes. This is exactly, you couldn't ask for anything more. We got a big engulfing breakout candle above the range we've been in since May of 2022. So how long is that exactly? That's approximately 650 days. So we've been in this range less than 650 days, right? Not counting this week, of course. And we finally have an engulfing breakout. So, you think of like, you're a submarine and you're under the water, right? And you're losing oxygen, and you finally come up for air. And it's like, I can finally breathe again, right? So Theta has life. It has a pulse, right? And it's a pretty big pulse. So let's see how the week goes. Like I said, a couple different ways. We can either come down and back test the breakout, continue higher. We could consolidate up here, continue higher, or we just continue higher in another engulfing weekly candle. For me, I was kind of hoping we can come back down a little bit to get a more of a 1-2-1-2, which would be something like this. So we have a 1, 2, we come all the way up for another 1, and then come all the way down for a 2, maybe testing, $1.50 area. And then by that time, the bull market support band is up here. So not only we backtest this breakout area, but we also retest the bull market support band. So that's like I call the trifecta, right? We backtest the breakout area of the previous high. We also backtest the bull market support band, and we also, last but certainly not least, we get a massive 1, 2, 1, 2, right? Anytime you have something like that, so if I draw a trend line and I do something like this, like an M, right? It usually spells a big move, right? If you think this move was big, you haven't seen nothing yet. If this is going to turn into a 1, 2, 1, 2, if not, then let me take that off the screen. Then this is going to simply continue into a third wave or a C leg, right? So we have an A, B, and now we're getting C. Or better yet, we have a 1, 2, now we're getting 3. We still got a ways to go, 4 and 5. So if we come down and back test, we get a 1, 2, 1, 2, and then the third becomes much bigger, 4, 5, 4, 5. So it's all about, do you want a higher price later, or do you want it to continue breaking out but potentially get a lower price? The reason why is because, price runs out of steam, right? So if the price is continuing to pump, it's sort of running out of breath, right? But if the price comes back down and you get a 1, 2, 1, 2, and it retests the bull market support band, it retests that breakout area, it's like, you bounce the ball and then you hit the ball again, and then you hit the ball again, and it gives you a bigger bounce. Versus already being up here, you're sort of losing momentum, you're losing speed, right? Versus if you were to bounce off the 1, 2, 1, 2 area. So either way, whatever it is, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Why? Because we're going in the right direction. There's two types of ways you can look at analysis, which is where are we going is sort of the easy part. How we get there, that's the hard part, right? There are multiple ways to get to Canada, right? But there's a fast way, there's a scenic way, but at the end of the day, we're gonna get to Canada, right? Or whatever you pick on the map. There's one direction, there's usually many more directions. So, like I said, the easy part, what I've been talking about since down here, was a retracement back up into here, right? Now how we get there, that's pretty difficult. Now the standard way to get there is through an Elliott wave, right? Which is an impulsive move to the upside, which is a 1, 2. Now we're getting 3, 4, and 5, right? That would be the standard way we get there. Now this is the weekly chart. Just because the lines are going, sort of straight up doesn't mean you have many corrections within the waves. So that it can turn into that, right? So for me, I'm sort of like to be more conservative and say, hey, if next week is a sideways week, that's fine. Why? Because looking at the RSI, we're in overbought territory. That's okay, but it would allow the RSI to cool off. So now we're going to get into that. So let's go to the daily chart and look what we have here. Now, both of these highs are pretty much equal. So we don't have any bearish divergence from this high to this high, which is pretty good. But if I zoom in here, let's go to the 4-hour chart. you can start to see that this breakout was a little choppy. So remember what I've said, right? This could be when it's choppy like this and it breaks out, it breaks the top, but then it struggles to break out. What do we call that? We can call that a flat, which is an A, B, and a C, something like that. Now the C can stop here, it could stop here, or it can even go all the way down here, or it can just simply go sideways like this, right? Whatever the case may be, it's starting to look like a flat. Now, how can we confirm that, or how can we add conviction to that? And that's not a bad thing, that's actually a good thing, because we got the breakout from the weekly candle. Now we're sort of in outer space. Now you sort of want to come back down to back test the breakout area, or the bull market support band, or simply just consolidate in a correction. Any of those would be totally healthy, totally fine, and continue the bullish momentum, because pullbacks are bullish. We want pullbacks, right? So if this turns into a flat, not saying it is, this is just one idea on the 4-hour chart. We went through the weekly chart. I gave a couple ideas. Now we're going to the 4-hour and to the daily, and I'll give you a couple more ideas on the short time frames. So if I turn on the RSI, you can see right here. So you see the top of this is going up, right? But you look at this, the top of this is going down. So up, down. So the RSI is trending down, the price is trending up. That is called bearish divergence. Now, that divergence can be easily taken out. All it has to do is sort of go sideways a bit, and then it can take out that divergence, right? So, bearish divergence, bullish divergence, it definitely, you want to take it seriously, but a lot of times, some of the times, maybe none of the times, it could play out. Actually, not none of the times. Well, you would really want to use it in conjunction with the Elliott wave, right? So a lot of times between the 4th and the 5th. And if I count here, it looks like a 1, 2. This could be 3, 4, and now this is 5, right? So then you get an A, B, C, and then a continuation. Now this ABC can meet up with the bull market support band. It can back test this high right here. So if I bring it around right there, right? And all of those would be bullish. So let me take the RSI off and just redo that real quick. So potentially we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it's bullish, right? And then you get this pullback, and then you continue to break to the upside. But look at this. The break to the upside looks a little choppy. I mean, yeah, it does have some impulsiveness, but it's sort of, it needs to get going, right? Or it's going to look bearish, because this is the point where it broke out of. And I can show you another example, which was down here. And we called this flat pretty nicely. So here was our high right here, right? We chopped to the upside, and we came right up to it. We pulled back down, then we chopped again, and we took out the high, right? So, yeah, so we have, and then here's the most important part. If you notice right here, we couldn't get going once we broke this top. So actually, let me go to the daily. It'll make more sense, so I can use the RSI too. So here's what I say. Number one, you have this top. Number 2, you had this chop. Number 3, you broke the top. And number 4, you had an RSI drop. Okay, so that's sort of the makings of a flat, right? So which is an A, B, C. A, B, C, right on the bull market support band. Super, super bullish, right? Now, when everybody was up here, it was a fake out. And what I'm saying is that could potentially be what's happening on the smaller time frame. Not saying that it is, because when you look at the daily, there is no flat. I mean, we're on our way, right? So I usually stick with the higher time frames than the lower time frames. But when you look at the lower time frame, it's starting to kind of look like that, right? Where you have this sort of area where you're not pushing above this high. So it could be an A, B, and a C. Or you have an A, it comes down again, and then it breaks out for a C, right? So it's a 1, 2, 3, which is an A, B, and then you get C. And then you go to the upside. So it's a bigger three-way move. So there's different things. But either way, I'm happy because this move, especially on Sunday, it brought us up to that $2.40 line, which is a really good thing. We wanted that to happen. We wanted to, I mean, all we needed to do was break above $1.66 and close above on a weekly scale. I mean, we passed that by a mile. So that's really good to see. So now let me go to the daily, or actually let me turn on the sequential. Nothing helpful there. But here's the thing also that would make me a little cautious here is look at this. We are on a daily 9, right? So number 1, we potentially have 5 waves. Number 2, we have a daily 9. Number 3, it looks kind of like a flat, right? And then also we have bearish divergence on the 4-hour. So when you add it all up, the probability of this coming week being sort of a correction starts to increase. Now that's perfectly fine. There's nothing to worry about if that's the case, because pullbacks are healthy. We want them. We welcome them. It allows the oscillators to cool off. It allows things to be retested, and it allows momentum to build again, right? So the 9 is telling me, hey, it looks like we're getting exhausted here. So it's just telling you to be quiet or be cautious. But then also we have, the bearish divergence on the 4-hour. And but when you go to the weekly chart, there's nothing there. I mean, we're basically looking very bullish here. Yes, we do have 4 green candles in a row. We could use a little pullback, right? So that's the sort of the bearish way to kind of look at it. And when I say bearish, it's not even bearish, just short-term bearish, right? So let me go to the 4-hour. Now let's try to look at this in a different perspective. So that was one idea, right? That one idea had many different confluent indications. Let's go to another idea, which is saying, no. This coming week is not going to be a pullback week. It's going to be a continuation week. So in that case, you could say, well, this is a 1-2. This is also a 1-2. And in the third wave, now we're in that third wave, right? But it's the third of the first. And in that third of the first, you have a 1-2, 1-2, right? So this is 3, 4, 5. We're going to come down 4 and 5. So that would be kind of the third. So it would be 1. So this whole thing would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right, so, which would suggest a little bit more upside to go before a correction into that fourth wave. And then also another way to look at it is if I put a line here, right? So so here's our high. We broke the high. And what I do like about it, right? What I do like about it is when we broke the high, we broke it with an engulfing candle. So that's pretty good. That's a point for the bulls, right? And then look at this candle right here, the following candle. This red candle came down and back tested. It wicked down here and then it quickly got bought back up. That's another point for the bulls, right? This candle sort of got rejected here, but again, it's Sunday, right? Low volume. We really have to wait for Monday and Tuesday to see if we can get more indication. Now, what could happen here is, I mean, you can see this is a beautiful cup right in here. So we're cupping into the resistance. We broke it. So we can come down and retest it and then continue higher, right? Instead of it being an A, B, C, continue higher. But even if we had an A, B, C and we came back down to $1.80, it would be actually pretty good. So then if I zoom out, what would that be? Well, to me, it would be a 1, 2. All of this is 3. Then we get 4, and then we go up for 5. Right? So, yeah, that would look pretty good. It would look pretty good. And then that fifth wave, now, depending where it could be an expanded flat, a running flat, right? But if I just pull, where is it at? If I just pull a fib extension here, from the bottom of the second to the top of the third, considering this is a flat, I'll go right at the top of this wick and then I'll come down. Now it could be an expanded flat or something smaller, but I'll put it right here on the bottom. You know, a fifth wave can be anywhere in this vicinity from the 1618 to the 1.272. So between $3.50 to $4, really. So if this thing shoots down pretty fast, and usually a flat could be quick, right? It could be within a couple of days, because we're on the 4-hour chart. It happens pretty fast. Maybe it gets even lower, right? And then you have this big, sharp, impulsive move up. And what flats are designed to do is they're designed to break out, get you bullish, then quickly come down, break the low, and then get you incredibly bearish, making you think that this was a fake out when it was. But the real fake out is where you weren't looking, which is this fake out, and then it turns up and then it goes, right? So it's a double fake out. So think of a flat pattern as a double fake out. You know, like you're on the basketball court playing Michael Jordan, right? And he just juked you out. So, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's get back up here into that $4 area. So I would say this: within 2 weeks, I can totally see us between $3.50 and $4 within 2 weeks. I can see that. So even if we do have this bearish correction this coming week. So regardless, you know, me trying to figure out the route, like, is it going to do this, then up? Is it going to back test this and then go up? That's just for entertainment purposes. That's for like having fun, right? But as an investor, do you think like, I don't know if you watch Shark Tank, but think about like Mark Cuban and Kevin O'Leary and those guys. Do you think they honestly care about this little pullback and this little back test? No, they don't care about that. What are they doing? They're going to what? The monthly chart, right? The weekly chart, and they're zooming out, and they don't care about those little blips in the road. We do, because we're sort of, you know, crypto enthusiasts, and we like to figure out the price and good places to dollar cost average, understanding, trying to learn charts and things like that. But deep down, as the investor, right, it really doesn't matter what happens in the short term, because in the long term, this thing is, in my opinion, continuing to go up. So whatever pullback we get along the way is really irrelevant to the bigger picture. So, and it's actually very quite difficult to gauge the route that you take. Like I said, it's easy to figure out the destination. It's harder to figure out the route. And a lot of people don't even waste their time. But I like doing it because, it's sort of like an investigator. You're sort of investigating and trying to figure out how it's working, and you're learning from your mistakes, right? So, but the possibilities are, I wouldn't say endless, but there are a lot of possibilities. And for me, I'm not telling you which one it's going to be. I'm giving you multiple ideas, multiple possibilities, so that whatever the price does, we aren't taken off guard. We're sort of, okay, yeah, we talked about that last week. Okay, so now we can rule out this way and that way. Now let's focus on this way, right? So we're sort of ruling out different probabilities that's happening. But I mean, speaking of the monthly chart, we have a monthly close above this 9, which was pretty good. So not only we had the close above these monthly closes, but we also closed above the wick. And not only that, this candle was essentially the 9 buy, right? So it's a good probability that we put a line there, that we closed above, right? Which basically, you can say that this 9 buy is now activated, right? It took a couple years, right? What was it, like 650 days for it to activate? But it did it, right? It activated it. So so now we're on a 5. So we could potentially have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So another 5 months of potential upside according to the monthly indicator. Now it's really hard to get a monthly anything, right? Because that would mean you would have continuous, like a 6, a 7, an 8, and then a 9. Of course it's possible, but if that's the case, then we want the 6, the 7, and the 8 really to break us out of here, and then we can get the 9 somewhere at a very high price, right? That would be a perfect take profit opportunity. But yeah, I think I'll move on to Theta Fuel. If you have any questions below, you can drop them. So essentially, we can pull back and back test this area, then continue higher. That would be fine. It'll be a 1 2 1 2, be very bullish. Or we can have some type of flat pattern in here, get that 5th wave, then come back and back test, then continue higher, right? Or we could just simply continue higher. It's really, anybody's guess. But looking at the 4-hour, we did have bearish divergence. We are on a daily 9, right? Now, a lot of times when you have a daily 9, you can see here we had 2 of them. So we had one here and we have another one. So now the probabilities are increasing, right? And if I turn on but we don't have any divergence, which is good, right? On the daily. But we did on the 4-hour. So, and here, look at this. Look at this right here. This is proof that the green dot gets printed as the 9 gets printed. So I know someone commented, I'm putting these green dots. No, I'm not putting these green dots, right? The indicator is putting it there, right? I think someone said too that the price has to come down to hit these green dots. Well, no, it doesn't have to, right? These green dots are there as your setup trend line, or the red dot is your setup resistance line. So you can see this 9 here created these red dots, or green dots, but we never tested them. Instead, we made another 9, which then stopped printing these green dots, and now you can see the next green dot is above the bull market support band. So this is the first daily green dot, our support, that is officially above the bull market support band. So if this thing were to come down and have a bigger correction, right, then we can retest somewhere in this area, right? So actually a good place to do that is if I just put a Fibonacci and I go all the way to the top to the 9, a really good place is the 618, right? So everybody knows a 618 retrace. What is that? That's $1.52, right? And then right in here, $1.71. So I would suspect if we did have a correction, would be between the 618 and the 50. Now, we don't have to. This thing can be getting ready to rip and roar to the upside, right? Another way you can figure out a correction is if I put a trend line here and then I come all the way across. You can see we've broken out of this resistance in here. Let me put it right there. So yeah, look at that. Let me take this off, and I can actually put one here too, sort of like a channel, right? We're in this channel, oscillating to the upside, to the downside, and now look, we broke out of the channel, right? So that's pretty good, right there. So now, what does that mean? Well, it could be a throw over, and we can come back in the channel easily, or we could come back and back test the top of this thing. So we have resistance, resistance, we break out, we come back down, we back test it as support, right? So around $2. So I'll pull back to around $2. We can back test it, right? And then what? Continue on. And that would be a what? A 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So yeah, that's it for Theta. I think it looks pretty good. Either way, if we get a correction or not, I mean, you kind of want it to have a correction, right? I mean, that because it's better to get it over with now than have a bigger one later, right? The more dips and corrections we get now, the more momentum we have to carry on. So that'll be it for Theta. I mean, Theta is really good news, but Theta Fuel is even more interesting news. Why? Because Theta Fuel is officially breaking out of its range. And when I mean breaking out, I mean we have 2.5 hours basically for the candle to close. So we have, now let's talk about Theta Fuel. I mean, we know about Theta, but look at Theta Fuel. If I put a line right there at, what was that close here? That close, the highest weekly close was at 0.0729, and right now we're at 0.0858, right? So all we have to do, so basically the goal, today's goal, is for this weekly candle, this weekly engulfing candle, mind you, break above 0.0729. So yeah, that would be great. I mean, just say 0.073, really. 0.073. If we can get that, that would be amazing. And right now, and I think it's, I mean, we are currently about 18% above where we need to be. So we have plenty of wiggle room. So it looks like we are definitely gonna get what? The weekly close breakout for Theta Fuel. Another thing that has come to fruition. I was saying, hey, be patient with Theta Fuel. I mean, what's good for Theta Fuel is good for Theta, and vice versa. And when Theta broke out, it was only a matter of time before Theta Fuel broke out as well, right? Because look at here, we have a beautiful Wyckoff accumulation, something we've looked at many times, right? So if I pull this up, you can see exactly where we are. And that, my friends, is about to enter here, right? So that's another reason why we could probably have a correction coming up, right? I mean, if you look at all the Theta stuff, and now you look at, I mean, just crypto in general. I mean, if you look at last week and the week before, I mean, crypto's been pumping. So the probabilities increase every time it pumps that eventually you're going to get that correction. And when it happens, it could be pretty big, right? Depending on what Bitcoin likes to do. Now, for Bitcoin, we want it to stay relatively high, at least above 58, 60, right? And definitely above its bull market support band. But looking at the price of Theta Fuel, you can see, right, this Wyckoff, right? You have this move to the upside, move to the upside, move to the downside, that took out this low. Same thing here, move to the downside, that took out this low. Then we have this move back to the upside that didn't take out this high. We have this move to the upside that didn't take out the high. Now this is the Wyckoff accumulation schematic 1, and this one here is schematic 2, which basically means instead of a spring, you sort of get this U shape that didn't take out this low. But it's the same thing, really. So we have the spring phase, we come down, we have the spring phase. Then we start our impulse to the upside, right? Impulse to the upside. We back test the bull market support band. And then once we got that, bam, that was the go signal. Now we have a massive engulfing candle that broke above this high and this high. So that would put us right about here. So if I had to guess on the weekly chart, what we're about to do, we can come all the way up to these areas up here. So that's exactly what Theta did, right? When Theta broke out, and by the way, look at the top of the screen, T Fuel USD, look at that, we're up 16% today. That's big. And look at Theta, we're up 11%. I mean, look at XLM, it's down 2.5%. XRP's down 2.5%. A lot of the coin, look at ADA is down almost 2%. Quant is down 2%. Filecoin, now Filecoin does look like Theta, it's up 16.5%. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you have these rotations. Some of them are down, some of them are up. But for example, if I'm holding QNT and I'm down 2.5% and Filecoin's up 16.5%, does that mean I'm going to sell my Quant and then go chase Filecoin? No, because maybe the next couple days it starts to rotate. So it's always good to be planted in whatever thing you have. So going to T Fuel, or I'm sorry, let's go back to Theta real quick. Now look what Theta did, right? And then this is going to give us an indication of what Theta Fuel is going to do potentially, right? So here's our top right here, right? And then we broke out, right? We broke the top. And then where did it go? It went all the way to this line right here. Okay? So just take a mental screenshot of that. So we have this line here at these wicks, right? We have this high and we have this breakout. So now I'm going to go to Theta Fuel. Okay, and then now you can see, right, here's our high that we broke out of, right? Here's our breakout candle. So we're right approximately here, right? So where did Theta go? Well, Theta went all the way to these wicks up here, right? So if I take this line and I draw all the way across about there, this is potentially where Theta Fuel can go this week. So there's a little conflicting things here, right? Some things are saying, no, we got to pump up a little more to get to the target area, and the target area is right about here. That's what Theta did. I'm not saying that's what Theta Fuel has to do, but Theta, when it broke above this high, it went all the way to this wick. So now that Theta Fuel is breaking above this high, the question is, do we get back up into here, right? And that area in case you're listening into the car, on the car or on the radio, whatever, is 11 cents, 11.5 cents. So 0.1152 around that area to 0.132. And currently we're at 0.086, right? And the high that we broke out of was 0.073. So if I took a measurement, we could still have another 30%. So I would say this week or next week, we could have another potential 30 to 40% uprise to get back to our previous area. Because remember when I talked about, actually, let me take everything off the screen here. This area here, remember back on theta where we broke below, we sliced through like butter. And that's sort of in a lot of areas in the chart, right? So when we broke this area, we sliced through like butter, and then when we came up, we sliced up, right? So now we're approaching this line here, right? And what do we call that? The gray area. So Theta Fuel is officially entering the gray area, which is right in here, right? Which means what? We don't really have much resistance because there's really no volume profile here, because when we broke through this price zone is like a gray area, right? We slice down like butter, slice up like butter. So now we're going back up into it. So if we close the week above this high, we could potentially again slice right through it like butter until we get back up in here. Exactly what Theta did. Theta. So let's see if that's the case, right? You can see right here, and now let's go back up, right? So, I mean, obviously there's a lot of resistance support in here when we were down there, and there's a lot of resistance up here too. But in between is this yellow zone, which is sort of like this gray area where we sort of, instantly go up, instantly go down, and now since we're entering it, maybe we get back up into here. So that would be sort of the analysis here on Theta Fuel, at least for the weekly time frame. So, I mean, long story short, the main thing is, from the macro investor perspective, is we get this weekly breakout, which looks exactly like that's going to happen. Which means what? Which means we are breaking out of a range, a 650-day range. This is a major accomplishment. Think about that for a second. Theta Fuel is about to break out, which it did already, and close above a range that it has been in for over 650 days. Less than 650 days, right? So that's a big deal. That's a big accomplishment, right? And a lot of times it's overlooked, and people don't like to talk about it, but I am talking about it. And I'm, a lot of some coins that are really, really good, they don't really have a voice out there on crypto Twitter. And I think Theta Fuel definitely should have more voices. And so I'm essentially, Call of Duty, right? My Call of Duty is to come out and say, hey, this is a big deal. And not just Theta, but a lot of coins that are breaking out of their range that they've been in for the longest time. But if you don't point it out, it gets overlooked, right? So I'm pointing it out. And if you enjoy this type of stuff, hit that like button, and let's keep the momentum going. And we're in store for some good price action, especially since, like I said, we're breaking out of the range. But then more importantly, we're getting into these retracement levels, or soon to be. And that's where the big thing lies, because if you look at Bitcoin, it got through its retracement levels. It's sort of battling its high. So we'll see how that unfolds. So yeah, let's keep it going. Now let me zoom in let's go to the daily chart. Turn on sequential. So we had a 9 yesterday. We broke out of that 9. I don't really like candles that break above the 9 on the very next candle. So look, if you see this 9 here, we had a 9, we went sideways, then we broke out. Of course, we did go sideways here, So we'll see how that continues to unfold. Let me go to the 4-hour chart. So there is a little bit of bearish divergence, but nothing too bad. I mean, you have this high here, up there, RSI down, and it actually looks like the RSI has broken out of its resistance area. But yeah, it actually looks like taking it out. So it's actually looking pretty good for the price of Theta Fuel. I mean, if you look at it, we are in the middle of an impulse wave. So I would say, right, we would come down maybe and have a potential to come down and backtest this area, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think, at least for Theta Fuel, I think this is a 1-2, 1-2, and now we're in the middle of a third, and I think, we're in the middle of an impulse. So we still could have plenty of more room to the upside before we get that correction. Now, there's always that scenario, right, where we can have an ABC, and that C can get down here and back test this area, but that would actually be really, really good. Why? Why would that be really, really good? Because then this would be a 1-2, 1-2, and that would be so incredibly bullish, right? So it's kind of like you bite the bullet now, but you get heavily rewarded later, or you can continue, going up, but not at the velocity as you would if you were to get a 1-2, 1-2. So just something to think about. So yeah, so we can either get a back test, or we flag out, continue higher. And remember that I talked about that gray zone where you slice through like butter. I think if that's the case, right, then this is gonna, you have a little range here, right? You broke above the range, so we'll see how it reacts. So if we come down, let's make this the new support. If it doesn't make support, then you can see a bigger correction. But if it does make support, right, then you can see a big pump to the upside. Back up into this area right over here. So I would say, around that 11 cent, 12 cent area. So yeah, we're sort of in the middle here. So we'll see how it goes. And we're also in the middle of an impulse. But yeah, that's about it. Now let's touch on Bitcoin real quick. I know the video is over an hour, but hey, it's Theta. It deserves it. It's making up for all the lost time that it should have been talked about on YouTube, right? So making up for lost time. Look at it that way. So looking at Bitcoin real quick, try to make it very fast. Look at this. We have an engulfing weekly candle. If Bitcoin can pump and close above, I don't think it's going to happen, but that would be awesome if it did, close above 65,462, then that means we have a brand new weekly high breakout, right? So a weekly close, I should say. So that would be the highest weekly close ever in Bitcoin. Doesn't look like that's going to happen because we don't have that much time, but hey, it's okay, right? Because we're still basically up there. So what's happening with Bitcoin, right? Well, I've always said, hey, this could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're at the all-time high. Maybe we just consolidate in here before breaking out. Another idea is that this is a cup, and then we get a bigger correction, like a handle, where the bull market support band meets up with the price, bounce off the bull market support band, testing, holding, confirming, then a bigger breakout. But hopefully, if that's the case, we get some sideways action, because there's nothing better than Bitcoin going sideways after going in a major impulse. So it went into a major upswing, right? So if we go sideways now, that would allow the alts to catch up even further, right? They're going to catch up organically no matter what, because Bitcoin's going up. But they really, really start to move if Bitcoin goes sideways, because people rotate, and then the attention stops being on Bitcoin and start turning to the alts. But it's sort of like a bittersweet thing, because you kind of want it to go sideways, but you also want it to break out into a new all-time high, then go sideways. Then it would really turn on the rampage for the altcoins, right? So if I go to the 4-hour chart, is there anything here that's useful on the small time frame? Let's see. Well, like I said, it looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, doesn't it look like that to you? And if I zoom in to this fifth wave, okay, yeah. It looks like we could potentially have one more wave. So we have a 1, 2, 3, and now we're in that middle of the fourth wave. Fourth waves are always usually long and complex. And then we get that fifth wave. So yeah, it looks really good. I think we still have another wave to the upside. And if we were to count that wave, depending on if Bitcoin is already finished, then we can say this. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right? And that's part of the fifth wave of this fifth wave. Of this fifth wave here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this fifth wave is part of this fifth wave here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this fifth wave is a part of so that fifth wave is a part of this fifth wave, or this actual wave, which is 1, 2, 3, ABC. Here's that flat, and then 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So we're getting close to that fifth of the fifth of the fifth. Right? So, and that whole fifth wave, these 5 waves in here, is either part of a third wave or a part of a C wave. If it's part of a C wave, then, it looks like the rise, crash, reaccumulation, or even the cup and handle. If it's part of a third wave, then we still get a correction, but we have more velocity when we break out into a new all-time high. So, like I said, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ABC. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ABC. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Then that would be sort of the idea there if we were to continue breaking out. But if this is an ABC, then you probably get another ABC, a bigger one, or some type of cup, or some type of rise, crash, retrace, and reaccumulation where we go sideways for a bit at the all-time high, knocking on the door. Eventually it gets weakened and then you break through. So either way, I think it's looking very good. We'll just have to allow time to take its course and see how things play out. So I think that'll do it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. Sunday is about to come to an end. The weekly candle, that's the important part. The weekly candle is about to end. I was actually looking at the price of XLM. XLM is about to have a breakout too, about these candles here. So you have this close here. We're getting a breakout. So a lot of different charts look pretty good. XRP still not above its where it needs to be on the breakout, but it did get back above the bull market support band, which is good. I can run through the list, but I'm not going to. ADA had a breakout. Now remember, it could turn into a flat like an ABC, but it does look impulsive, so we'll see. Either way, we're looking really good, and we'll see how this week plays out, and I will catch you guys on the next one. If you could, that would be awesome. If you could leave a like, hit the subscribe, and always drop a comment. It helps out the algo, especially on the weekends. It'd be awesome. So go Theta, go crypto, let's go. I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.